began work on their own browser, Internet Explorer. Bill Campbell, chairman of the board of Intuit and management coach to Steve Jobs, Google, and Netscape, talks about Microsoft's actions.
Microsoft went out and bought a B-level browser and then developed a lot of it themselves, and then violated every sense of business practices, ethics, and should have been, government-mandated controls, but bundled this with their browser.
Microsoft's browser was included at no extra cost with every Windows operating system they sold.
Microsoft did everything it could legally and illegally to beat Netscape.
Jim Clark said that included intimidating their own business partners.
Compaq Computer told us that Microsoft had threatened them. We were about to do a deal with them, but they said that Microsoft got wind of it and said, if you do, we're going to cancel your license to the Windows operating system. Well, I said, that sounds like it ought to be against the law.
Gates also made deals with AOL and CompuServe to use Internet Explorer as their exclusive browser, stripping more and more customers away from Netscape.
It's almost inconceivable that they were able to get away with that. That take and put their browser, attach it to their operating system. Essentially, kiss Netscape on the cheek and say goodbye.
Windows was shipping about 200 million copies a year, so it became a life and death struggle for Netscape very, very quickly.
On May 18, 1998, the Justice Department and 20 states' attorneys general filed antitrust suits against Microsoft.
The Justice Department has charged Microsoft with engaging in anti-competitive and exclusionary practices designed to maintain its monopoly in personal computer operating systems and attempting to extend that monopoly to Internet browser software.
It was one of the largest antitrust actions in American history. Microsoft was allegedly using its operating system monopoly to choke the life out of Netscape. As CEO Jim Barksdale pointed out in congressional testimony,
how many of you use a PC without Microsoft's operating system? Gentlemen, that's a monopoly. That's a lock. That's 100%.
Microsoft refuted the accusations, asserting that Internet Explorer was not bundled with, but integrated into Windows, and that they had done nothing to prevent Netscape from competing in the marketplace. But the once groundbreaking startup had already begun to crumble. They lost over $88 million in the fourth quarter and laid off 400 employees. Their once mighty market share had dwindled by 30%.
When you know that there's a giant gorilla that wants to crush you, it's a little bit scary.
Andreessen repeatedly called them the beast from Redmond, and said of an earlier meeting with Microsoft that it was like a visit by Don Corleone. I expected to find a bloody computer monitor in my bed the next day.
He got a little bit cocky in his public comments, and he was really kind of sticking it to Microsoft. You're a public company. You can't admit anyone's going to kill you. You have to be defensive.
But the beast from Redmond proved too strong. By 1998, Netscape was ready to take off the gloves.
You've got mail.
And America Online was coveting Netscape's over 38 million users.
What will they think of next?
On November 24, 1998, Jim Barksdale called an anxious staff together to make an announcement.
We have concluded negotiations and agreed to sell our company to AOL of Dulles, Virginia.
In an all-stock deal, AOL paid $4.2 billion for Netscape.
It was a bittersweet time. We were thrilled that the company was going to be purchased by a big company, and we were also really sad to see it going.
I considered that salvation. And the next year, AOL increased in value ninefold, 900%.
The final breath of the dying company was to release an open source version of their prized browser for free to everyone. They called it Firefox. To date, Firefox remains one of the world's most popular web browsers. At the time of the acquisition, Marc Andreessen was 27 years old and worth over $100 million. He became the chief technology officer of AOL. 3 years later, the Justice Department finally reached an agreement with Microsoft to settle the antitrust case. Microsoft agreed to share its application programming interfaces with third-party developers, and in a subsequent settlement, paid $750 million to Netscape's now parent company, AOL. For Netscape the company, it was too late. Bill Gates had won, driving a stake into the heart of the once promising startup.
Microsoft set its sights on the web, and they eventually got it. They killed us as a company.
Despite the dot-com bust and a slumping tech industry, Marc Andreessen left AOL in less than a year and went out on his own.
Mark enjoys the game. It's the excitement of starting something new. It's the excitement of an artist starting on a new piece of art.
He launched LoudCloud, a software service provider that designed, built, and maintained websites for large corporations. This was a very different Marc Andreessen. The college computer programmer had become a market-savvy business manager.
He wasn't the kid that was there breaking all the rules. A little bit more wealth, a little bit more influence, and particularly a very solid understanding of financial markets, how industries adopt technology. You know, he had been through those cycles now, and he'd seen it.
Andreessen took LoudCloud public in 2001, but this was no Netscape. The IPO got a chilly reception. With the pressure on, Andreessen was frustrated.
When you start bringing up very real things like, well, we can't just hire 1,000 people tomorrow, and he would say, well, make it 2 days then. It could be tough to work directly with him, and if he had to raise his voice, he did. If he had to throw a hamburger, he would, but he got everyone's attention.
In 2002, Andreessen, along with longtime colleague Ben Horowitz, sold the company's service business and retained the software business, renaming it Opsware. 5 years later, they sold Opsware to Hewlett-Packard for $1.6 billion. In the deal, Andreessen pocketed close to $138 million. In 2006, Andreessen married Stanford professor and philanthropist Laura Arriaga, daughter of Silicon Valley real estate billionaire John Arriaga. The wunderkind from Wisconsin was fast becoming one of the premier senior statesmen of Silicon Valley and was about to reinvent himself yet again.
You're starting a new fund.
I'm crossing over into the dark side. I've been an entrepreneur 3 times.
Yeah.
I started 3
companies. In other words, you've been the guy who's out looking for venture
I've always
capital.
been the guy raising money.
Privately, he had invested in Twitter, LinkedIn, and Dig, but was ready to go further. He started Andreessen Horowitz with Opsware founder Ben Horowitz. Together, they raised an initial fund of $300 million.
People come to him with every idea under the sun because he's Marc Andreessen. That's a great marketing card.
Within a year, they had raised another fund worth $650 million. Bloomberg LP is a minority investor in that fund. Brad Stone is senior writer at Bloomberg Businessweek.
Marc Andreessen went from the barefoot kid on magazine covers associated with remarkable invention, the web browser, to really being, a connector of the Silicon Valley ecosystem. It's hard to find a company or new entrepreneur or thinker in Silicon Valley without seeing a connection to Andreessen.
Marc Andreessen is co-founder and chairman of Ning and sits on the highest profile boards in the industry. He's also a close advisor to Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter's Evan Williams.
Mark has a wonderful, eclectic mindset. Everything from sealing wax to sailing ships. He was fascinated by it all and knew a lot about a lot of things.
If you have a chance to work with him, you should feel privileged to be among that select crew. But you're going to get the crap beat out of you. There's no doubt about it, because there's just so very few people who can keep pace with the Marks of the world.